Okay, so the second part of this video is getting this logo that I just traced onto a helmet. So what I'm going to do there is um, I'm going to find a similar helmet to what I need, which happens to be that, let's see, this Vanderbilt helmet is similar, and not because of the logo, it's just a coincidence that the logo is kind of similarish looking, but the only thing I mean about similar is that it's got the notch out for stripes. I basically just pick whether I'm working on a helmet with or without stripes. So there's just two different designs there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a save as on this. And this is going to be my UVA football helmet. Okay. I can then get rid of all the work I did to make it a Vanderbilt. And so now I just have a blank helmet that's got a provision for stripes. So next thing to do is the Vanderbilt logo where I had added that, I'm actually just going to replace this with my UVA logo that I just drew up. And if you're doing this, you obviously won't necessarily have one to swap out like that. So you just have to add it in. You go to Assemblies, Add Component, then you select the UVA logo and hit OK, and it's going to put it somewhere. You're going to have to move it around into place. So you just do Move Component, you click on it, and you can just move it to where you want it to be. And this is not an exact science. I just look at a picture of the helmet, and I kind of move it up to roughly to where it's going to be. And then I have to change the reference set on that, which is something we did in the last one. Right now it's showing everything. I don't want everything shown. I just want to see that reference set. So that's what we had put in that reference set. But I've already done most of the work. Most of these logos are generally in the same spot. So if I go back, I'm glancing over to my other screen just to see. Yeah, it's kind of somewhere around in there. I'll get it tweaked exactly how it needs to be, but that's generally where it goes. And then the angle, most of the time that we're angling, like considering it that angle, like with this flat. So this angle that it wants to snap to is actually looking up a little bit. So I try to align the logo generally with this line right here of the helmet. So more or less somewhere around in there should be about flat. Yeah, that looks about right. So we're going to be somewhere around in there like that. I'm going to start on one side here. So if you ever mess with NX and other software similar, when you're adding things as an assembly, this is more like a collection of parts. So the only thing you can do with a collection is like add to it, take away from it, or move it around. You're not actually modifying it or using the geometry for things. It's just placing it. So that's all I'm doing now. It's just adding the one logo that I need for now, orienting it. I'm trying to get squared up with the helmet so it's not at some weird angle. And then this step is going to be a wave geometry linker. And I'm going to do a composite curve. There's several options, but if I select that composite curve, it gives me an error. And the reason it gives me an error is it doesn't, for some reason, like to grab intersecting curves. So I'm going to have to select these individually and see here. I can select all curves that I want as long as I don't select any two curves that intersect. So instead of being able to accomplish this in one step, I have to do it in 2 steps or 3 steps. Oh no, is that gonna deselect everything? Okay, no, it's good. So you kind of just gotta start clicking them and seeing what it's gonna let you grab. It can be difficult to keep track. Let's select all these. The process of selecting these and doing this wave geometry linker is extracting the geometry from that component model and pulling it into this so that I'll be able to actually utilize that geometry instead of just, like I was saying, like for an assembly, just moving it around. I'll be able to actually use it. Okay. Try to select similar types of things on each side. So if I select any of these other lines or curves, it's gonna freak out on me. So let's not do that. That looks good, but before I hit OK on that, I'm gonna do a screen grab so I know which ones I grabbed. There's other ways to do it, but I find this to be the easiest. Now I know which ones I grabbed, which ones I didn't. So I'll hit apply on that and then bring back this. I'm gonna just move it off to a different screen for now. I need to select this one, this one, this one. These guys over here. Got some down here to select. This one. Got it all. Glancing back and forth, I think I got it. I'll know for sure. Let's go ahead and hit OK on that. I can find out because I can hide my assembly component, and when I hide it, you can't tell, which means I grabbed every curve. You can barely see it kind of highlighting. So I have everything doubled now. I have the assembly sitting there, or the assembly component sitting there, and then I have those linked curves sitting on top of it. So at this point, what I want to do is just, I don't need to use the main logo anymore. I want to be working with these extracted curves that I grabbed. There's a couple ways to put this onto the helmet. I can either project it straight, or I can allow it to project based on the curvature. Some logos it matters, some logos it doesn't matter. If it was a really big logo and I projected it straight, it would start to do weird stretching at the extremes. So in those cases, you kind of have to do the different type of projection by the face normals. But for this one, it probably works both ways. One thing that it's going to most likely do on here is it'll shrink it a little bit. So if I take this set of curves and I project to this face, there we go. That's the trick, and that's the key that everybody seems to, not be able to do, I guess, is like how do we project the logo onto the curved surface, and that's it right there. That's what does it. Thought it would let me select both of these. Let me try this again. Oops, that's not what I want. Project curve, this to that. Yeah, okay. So I projected all that. It looks reasonable to me. I'm going to hit OK. Allow it to do that. I can hide the linked curves, and now I'm just looking at the projection. And I'm glancing over at a picture online of what the helmet's supposed to look like when it's done. And I think I've got the logo a little smaller than I want, which is, it's better if the logo is bigger. It'll print easier, show up better. In order to do that, I've got to go back into my I could either go here to this file that I created before and go to my scale curve and change that. You know, let's go up from 1.1 to like inch or 1.25, not inch. It's a scale factor, and then that increased it, and so it updated everything else that I did since then. It just follows the tree, just updates everything in that tree. So now you can see it's cropping it off there because it's falling off the surface that I projected it to. But when I'm looking at the one online, it's actually supposed to be higher up. It actually overlaps up here, and it's kind of higher up on the helmet. So what I'm going to do to get that right is what I can move is this assembly component, and it gets you're kind of just eyeballing it at this point. I'm going to go move this component. I'm going to just drag it up a little ways, drag it back a little ways, and then I try to keep it basically normal to the surface. So I don't want it to be like this funny angle. I want to try to go keep these gaps about the same, and I'm going to rotate this way, top to bottom, see if we're hitting. This will prevent weird stretching. I mean, it's always going to have a little bit of weird stretching. Anytime you put something flat on a curved surface, it's going to have to stretch and compress. But that's starting to get a little closer. I've got to move it still a little bit, but this is just part of the process, just where you're kind of playing around with things. But as I move it, things will update. It's nice if it doesn't go across. So in some cases, I'm just kind of taking some liberties there. With my own little artistic license, trying to fit it where it's going to print more ideal. Okay, we're fitting in that general area pretty good. It's ideal if it doesn't go up into there. What I'm probably going to do now, this is another way you can change it. I can double click it here and then go. Now I've basically changed the part that I'm working on to that logo. I can go to the scale here. I'm going to go down a little bit, 1.2, go back to my main model. Hey, there we go. I'm going to hide the component. So that's looking pretty good, but you can see what happened there. I'm not on that surface that I projected to, so all I gotta do is just go to my project and say, yep, project it to that surface as well, and it'll do that. So that's the logo on the surface. But that's just one side. We gotta do the other side too. Since we have this set here, there's several ways of doing this. Trying to think of how I want to do it for this example. I might just show the easier way, because the harder ways can get really difficult. Yeah, I'm going to do it the easier way for now. Some logos you can't mirror it. You have to drag in another component over here. Like if it's something that's text, if it says pirates and you mirror it, it's going to say whatever pirates is backwards. Or you've got like Chiefs that they have two different logos because the arrow faces like points forward and it says KC. If you mirror it, the arrow points forward this way towards where the person's looking, but it would say KC backwards. So it gets difficult, but it is what it is. All right, so now that we have these curves projected to this surface, I just need to extract this surface, and you actually do it by an offset surface, and you just offset at a distance of 0. Okay, so yeah, offset the face 0 just means it's gonna basically create a copy of it. And so I'm selecting the faces that it's projected to. Hit OK, and then I can hide that body. So now I'm just looking at this surface and a set of curves that I've got to trim to these. So there's a number of ways to do this as well. I'll do it the way that works out most of the time, and that's going to be trim sheet. So I can select like areas of the sheet to discard, and then I can select the boundary, which the boundary is going to be my projected curves. What is it doing there? Like something. That's what I mean about it doesn't always like going across sheets. I thought it would do fine with that. And okay, it is. Maybe it's just some display error or something. Okay. And then, so look at what regions. Oh no, see, it didn't like something. It should not have removed this. Change the tolerance on it. This should be blue. The only area I selected to remove is the full outside area. So why it's doing that, I don't know. Everything has its challenges, and this one's no different. Okay, change the tolerance. This is kind of like a band-aid. It looks like it's going to work, but it might rear its ugly head later, or it might be fine. I'll just go with it. So that looks good there. But now what I'm going to need to do is any adjacent faces or regions are going to be united together. So I basically have to like deselect anything that's touching. So like if I want that one, then I need to deselect these. So the remaining surfaces all need to be just like floating. If that makes any sense, I don't know. But there's that. So when I hit apply or OK, everything orange is going to go away. So that gets me a trimmed sheet to some of what I need, but not all. So what I'm going to do is actually copy and do Control V, enter, and just copy that one that I did. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do a trim sheet. I definitely don't need that outer region. And this time, let's go, select our projected curves. I'm going to go ahead and do that same tolerance thing. And then I don't need any of the ones that I already got, so I can select those. It starts to get confusing and difficult when things are overlapping, and it can be kind of frustrating. Okay, so I'm also going to remove some of these other ones. That one I'll keep. I'll keep that one, but I'll have to get rid of these. I can keep those. Might have lost you, but I'm going to hit OK on that. And what I can do now is just see, that's one set. That was the second set. If I select them both, I don't see anything that's in both. What I don't want is to have the same surface in two different sets. So that's good. But I'm going to have to do this twice again. So I can paste that again. I can trim sheet. And since most regions I need to discard, I'm just going to actually say which ones I want to keep this time instead of discard. So I'll keep, they'll touch there. So this is going to be a pain. I'll keep that. I don't think it'll let me do this because they touch right there. It might. It might. I'll know for sure when I go to thicken it if it doesn't, if it likes that or not. It might not like that this touches. It's CAD stuff is weird sometimes, so. But everything's fixable. Do that, and we'll trim sheet. We're gonna keep which ones I did that. So I need to keep this region. Select my boundary, which is my projected curves. Change the tolerance so it's not freaking out on me. And then this region, hit OK on that. So all that to, and I'm going to turn off the curves. So the curves are going to hide. And what you're seeing now, the reason why you still see what looks like curves, those are the edges of the sheets. So if I change my selection intent to the sheet body, so that's a sheet, that's a sheet, that's a sheet, that's a sheet. This line that's going through an angle right here is just this edge. So it's just where the sheet, like where two sheets join, but since it's joined, it's treated as one sheet. So that's a sheet, that's a sheet, that's a sheet. All that looks good to me. And it's all at the angle. So now what I'm going to do is thicken these sheets. And I usually do -2. This it says inches, but it's actually millimeters. I just leave my stuff in inches. So I will thicken these things in a similar way. If I thicken these two, it's going to unite them, and I don't want them united because they're going to be different colors. So I'm going to thicken that. Let me try it this way. If I do feature faces, it should select everything that I trimmed in that one trim operation. So I'm going to hit that. And it thickened it. Good. Sometimes it doesn't do that. And then we have to fight it to find why. So I'm going to do this one here. I'm going to do these. Moment of truth. Ah, it worked. That one. Okay, everything thickened. Cool. There was something I was going to say there, but now I can't remember what it was. Oh, that's what it was. You notice on my thicken, I go out as well. I don't have to. I could just thicken it. I'm coming out 0.05. I could go 0 on that. It might make more sense if I do it on. I'll show you as an example. If I change that to 0 instead, it will update the display here. See, it'll share the same surface, but if you have somebody, if you're trying to print with a single color, it would merge it. You would never even know the logo is there. So if somebody was wanting to print with a single color and it's raised like this, that allows them to do that and have an actual logo that they could then go back and paint. It would give them the lines. But we have now solid bodies for the logo, and the sheets are in there, but they're kind of hidden and everything. So I'm selecting the sheets with my selection intent up there, Control B to blank those out of the way. And now if I hide these thickens, you'll see everything looks normal the way it was. Bring my thickens back. But they're interfering. So I'll do a cross section here so you can see what that looks like. It's just that the logo, the thickened logo, is interfering with the helmet. But what we actually want to do is subtract from this body. We're going to subtract all of these. And if I turn off Keep Tool, it just subtracts some, and those parts, that goes away. It just uses that as a subtraction element or feature, and they go away. But I want to actually keep them. So I'm going to say keep the tool. And then that's what that looks like. And then I'll add all the color and everything in Studio and Bamboo Studio or whatever your slicer is, but I also like to do it in the model here just so I can make sense of things and make sure I didn't mess anything up. So for this logo, Looks like there's a few different ways they do this, but and these colors don't need to be exact here. This is just for looks. So I'm gonna say this, this, and this all look like, and this. Those are dark blue. This is dark blue. This is dark blue. That's all dark blue, so I'll just tell it to make it dark blue. Select new objects. These are like a little bit lighter blue. And then the rest of this down here is all lighter blue. Again, this does not matter at all for what you're printing. It's just for my own sanity. So I don't know why I care about trying to get it looking accurate, but I just can't help myself. Okay, there's that, and then we've got like a kind of a darker orange for these. Somewhere like around in there. It's kind of a reddish orange. Yeah, sure. And then these are a little bit lighter. I do reference this when I'm, well, or reference this or the original picture when I'm coloring it in studio. But let's throw a little bit lighter color orange on there. There you go. That's what the logo looks like on the helmet. Go back and look at it again just to make sure. Yeah, basically looks like that. And then what I can do is I have this plane, this datum plane right there in the middle. So at this point, what I can do is take these thickens that I did, mirror those over. Then they're there, but again, I haven't subtracted it yet, so it's going to interfere. And if I try to print just like that, I don't know, sometimes it seems to work, but sometimes it just essentially ignores the logo or does some weird stuff. So I'm going to do that little deal here again where I go subtract from this body, and I don't want to select those, it won't do me any good. Select these bodies and make sure I say to keep the tool so that I don't lose those. And then there we go. So now if I do that cross section, you'll notice there's no red, which means there's no interference. And then this is ready to export. Export STL. Select it. And then I'll go to my football folder and hit OK. And that's ready to pull into Studio. That's it. No fancy ending. Thanks.